So in my last video, we were discussing the streets of Washington and how right smack in the center of Washington, D.C., leading to none other than the White House. It sits right here. You can see it better here, the White House, right there. How these streets were laid out by workers of the occult of the highest level. You're talking about architects within the Masonic societies that believe in this stuff, who believe in summoning devils. Basically, as I said, the craft that they talk about is witchcraft, and there it's right there. Built by Masons, planned and built by Masons over a period of, I think it was about 150 years it took them to complete all of the work here in Washington, D.C. What I didn't show you was the owl. And there, smack in the middle of the giant owl, is the Capitol building. Imagine, smack in the middle of a giant owl, which is unmistakable. And you can even see there's other streets here that kind of outline outstretched wings as well. But it's there. You can see its tail, its head, it's all there. This owl that's also depicted on the US $1 bill, you can see it there in the corner, on the obverse, the front, which is the owl of Molech or Moloch. It's a representation of Satan, Baal, that children were sacrificed to, and there it is at their infamous Bohemian Grove. I'll let you look into that yourself if you don't know anything about it, but this is where world leaders go at certain times of the year. Special invites. I spoke about Canada and the US together making up this giant beast, and there you can see it with its giant feet crushing the earth, and the dragon's head. You can see clearly the dragon's snout, the open mouth, and it's spitting fire at Russia with its tail stinging South America. It's quite remarkable. It's quite a sight. We spoke about the flag, which is a copy of the old English East India Company. It was set up in the 1600, I think it was 1600 it was set up. Yeah, there you see the same flag of the East India Company here. The first recognised flag of the US, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Pentagon, again with the White House. It's all there, it's all there. So, Bacon, I'm going to speak about Bacon in a minute. Washington, D.C. is steeped in occult societies and imagery symbols throughout the entire city. Skull and Bones, one of the darkest and most powerful occult societies in the world, with its headquarters at Yale University, Connecticut, was co-founded by the father of William Howard Taft, America's 27th president. The Bush family that produced 2 presidents, and John Forbes Kerry, who stood against President Bush in 2005, are also members. According to Dr. Robert Richard Hieronymus, author, occult muralist, and member of Co-Masonry, Skull and Bones are about greed and power. And that's the kind of people you have becoming presidents of the most powerful country on earth. That alone tells you something. In President Bush's 2005 inaugural address, he stated, "When our founders declared a new order of the ages, They were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled. So what exactly is that hope? And this new order of the ages, obviously, it's the ancient order of paganism and Satan worship. That's exactly what it is. Occultists learned through time to hide behind the scenes, the same as their god Lucifer, Satan. One of the most important acts that Yeshua did was to expose Satan's kingdom here on earth, bringing him out into the open. You see, before Yeshua arrived here, before he appeared on earth and completed his ministry, Satan had slunk in behind the scenes again. He was hidden. He was worshipped worldwide in a multitude of different images of gods. So what Yeshua did was bring him back out into the open and speak about him publicly. But since then, he's slipped back behind the scenes again, basically because he's a coward. And the people who worship him are cowards as well. So that's why these occultists learn to hide behind the scenes. This is one of the reasons why the Bible, well, it's the main reason why the Bible and Christians are hated so much by world leaders and people involved in the occult, by the music industry, Hollywood, anyone who gets anywhere in life. To get on in this life, it's just like the Bible shows us. If you don't bow the knee to Lucifer, you can only go so far. And you're kept down, you're kept back. So it's Christians that are hated, and the Bible is hated. Not Buddhists or Muslims so much, or Hindus or their works. It's Christians and the Bible, which should make atheists think. The Antichrist world order leader, 3.5 years into his reign here, will hunt down Christians and the true tribes of Israel, who are still mostly scattered throughout the planet. These are the ones most hated by the God of this world and his human followers. This so-called new order of the ages, or new world order, will be ancient outright paganism, where the open worship of Lucifer will occur. This is what they're talking about and longing for. They hide behind symbols which can have up to 7 levels of meaning, according to your position in the occult world. Corn is one of them and represents the god Dagon or Dagon in the Bible, or Baal as he is more commonly known. In Hosea 2:8 we read, "She did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, which they prepared for Baal." The gods Dagon and Baal are just alternate names for Lucifer, Satan, same as Moloch. Carvings of Baal or Satan, the ruler of demons, can be found in abundance throughout Washington, D.C., as can also the demonic heads of other occult gods and goddesses, whilst Christian images are practically non-existent. To be a Mason, you must believe in a God. Masonry mocks those who do not believe in a creator God. In the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, we read atheist, one who does not believe in the existence of God. Such a creed can only arise from the ignorance of stupidity or a corruption of principle, since the whole universe is filled with the moral and physical proofs of a creator. He does not look to a superior and superintending power as his maker and his judge, is without that coercive principle of salutary fear which should prompt him to do good and to eschew evil. Yeah, as if they eschew evil, really. and his oath can of necessity be no stronger than his word. Masons, looking to the dangerous tendency of such a tenet, have wisely discouraged it by declaring that no atheist can be admitted to participate in their fraternity. And the better to carry this law into effect, every candidate before passing through any of the ceremonies of initiation is required publicly and solemnly to declare his trust in God. I quoted from two of the most renowned Masons of all time, Albert Pike and Manly P. Hall. In one of the books that Manly P. Hall wrote, he quotes, "I hereby promise the Great Spirit Lucifuge," that's Lucifer's governor over the world's treasures, "Prince of demons, that each year I will bring unto him a human soul to do with as it may please him. And in return, Lucifuge promises to bestow upon me the treasures of the earth and fulfill my every desire for the length of my natural life. If I fail to bring him each year the offering specified above, then my own soul shall be forfeit to him, signed by the invocant in his own blood." So there you see, this is what pulls these people in. They're only interested in power and money, treasures. And these are the people who get to the top in every field, especially when it comes to the entertainment world and, more importantly, politics. Like the Bible tells us that the love of money is the root of all evil, and it definitely is. So here you see the men so admired and held in high esteem in this world are actually Luciferians. They tell you themselves. They have statues dedicated to them, with the supposed all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid on the dollar, which can be seen in all Masonic lodges around the world, is what is referred to as the blazing star. But just like "In God We Trust" is not referring to the creator God of the Bible. In fact, I would imagine that the God in God we trust is probably gold, oil and drugs. But the blazing star is not a representation of our sun. This star represents the dog star, Sirius, the star acknowledged in antiquity as the most evil star in our universe. The ancient Egyptians associated this star with drought and famine. And this is a quote by another Masonic author, David Ovison. "The Declaration of Independence was signed when Sirius was in alignment with our sun in July 1776. Also in 1848, when the cornerstone of the Washington Monument was being laid, the sun would have passed over Sirius. It could be seen in the eastern sky over the horizon, rising up over the Capitol Monument to its east. The monument top is made up of 13 levels, just like the pyramid on the Great Seal of America seen on the US dollar. The blazing star, according to Albert Pike, is Sirius. What about the banner of the United States with its 5-pointed stars? Where did that idea come from? Actually, if you look at the original banner of the the English East India Company, look how similar it is to the modern day banner. And this is a quote from Wiki. "The flag of the East India Company is considered to have inspired the 1775 Grand Union flag," which I think I got here. Yeah. The first flag of the United States, as the two flags were of the same design. That's the flag of the English East India Company and the 1775 Grand Union flag. This connection is attributed to numerous sources. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania once gave a speech endorsing the adoption of the company's flag by the United States as their national flag. He said to George Washington of Virginia, "While the field of your flag must be new in the details of its design, it need not be entirely new in its elements. There is already in use a flag. I refer to the flag of the East India Company." This was a way of symbolizing American loyalty to the crown, and the crown has got nothing to do with the royal family. The crown has got everything to do with the international bankers who own and control City of London Corporation, or the crown. Nothing to do with royalty whatsoever. As well as the state's aspirations to be self-governing, as was the East India Company. As regard to City of London Corporation, they have their own laws and their own police force, where if you go there, you'll see that the police don't have the black and white on their hats, the black and white squares. They've got red and white, which lets you see it's a different police force, because City of London Corporation has got nothing to do with Greater London or the UK, in the same way as Vatican City has got nothing to do with Italy, and Washington DC, District of Columbia, has got nothing to do with the United States. They're separate entities in their own rights, and together they form this empire of the city. So they control world finance, religion, and the military together. Anyway, getting back to the dollar bill, the eye on top of the pyramid, apart from representing Lucifer, it also represents Horus, the Eye of Horus, the Christ child, lit by the light of the dark star Sirius. The return of the missing capstone to the pyramid will occur when the Christ appears, in other words, the Antichrist leader. And he's going to appear very soon now. An interesting point: the 110th Congress of the US on January the 5th, 2007 passed House Resolution 33 to honour the Freemasons for their contributions throughout American history. The Masons actually felt that they were, in their day, forming a Masonic republic, which goes back to Plato's dream of a utopian republic. It was Plato that set down the earliest known record of ancient Atlantis, which many centuries later, Sir Francis Bacon, who is actually Shakespeare, where have I put this? Yeah, Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians. I'll put a link to this, but it basically, there's lots of info out there that lets you see that the guy who went by the name of Shakespeare and supposedly wrote all those works, the guy was illiterate. He could not have written any of those works. I don't think he can even sign his own name. He was chosen as a front by Bacon to front all his works because of who he was, the illegitimate son of Queen Elizabeth. He had to remain kind of hidden to the public. No one could know who he was. And I believe he actually wrote a letter to the King of Scotland when he came down to take charge of the crown of England and Great Britain, telling him that he didn't have to worry, that he'd no aspirations to become king, and that he would be a loyal subject. Right, Sir Francis Bacon wrote The New Atlantis, which some believe was meant to be a blueprint for the setting up of the US. Bacon believed that the US was the site of ancient Atlantis, a concept held by teachers of esoteric wisdom up until today. Manly P. Hall, many actually call him Masonry's greatest ever philosopher, founded America's Philosophical Research Society, which was dedicated to studying all the world's traditions and beliefs. Its library is packed with esoteric books from around the globe. His intention was to create a mini version of the Great Library of Alexandria. Money was no object to him, having been sponsored by a billionaire oil baroness from Ventura County. And it was all this occult, esoteric information that he unearthed worldwide during his lifetime that made him believe that the US had this end-time destiny to fulfill. Hence the books, America's Assignment with Destiny and America's Secret Destiny, or The Secret Destiny of America. Democracy was the ancient dream of setting up government without a monarchy. So breaking away from Great Britain was fundamental from the very beginning. In other words, it was all part of the plan. Manly P. Hall wrote in his book, The Secret Destiny of America, world democracy was the secret dream of the great classical philosophers. The brilliant plan of the ancients had survived to our time, and it will continue to function until the great work is accomplished. So there you have it. The secret destiny of America was to take the entire world to a single one-world democracy with its one world leader. And who knew it? Does that make all her wars more easy to understand than the fact that its leaders are always talking about bringing freedom and democracy to the world? Dr. Stanley Monteith quotes, "The occult is working at the highest levels of our society, using the military and financial power of the United States to bring about this one world state." Yeah, bringing democracy and freedom to the world, one bomb and one bullet at a time. Manly Hall, in his writings, said that the secret societies had been working behind the scenes for 3,000 years to bring democracy to the world. Bush mentioned that it had been for 2,500 years. So you see that they are actually working out an ancient plan, one that most probably goes all the way back to Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. Christian Pinto, maker of the documentary Riddles in Stone and writer of a book by the same name, where a lot of this information comes from this. He says, "Yet the ancient philosophers recognized that a true democracy could only be achieved by a society of perfected men." Dr. Obadiah Harris, president of Manly P. Hall's Philosophical Research Society, says, "The perfected men would be comfortable in a true democracy, and probably a true democracy cannot emerge until there is enough of such human beings in the world that can take over the government of man. It will be that kind of leadership. It will be like Plato's vision of the philosopher king, the man who has wisdom and the man who has power. Democracy has the occult promise in a fair world to live in. So a fair world is a kind of occult promise at the heart of democracy." So their warrior leader, their philosopher king, the one they've been looking for a long, long time. So here we have these people themselves telling us what their end game is. The bringing forth of a perfected society of humans, fitted of course with artificial intelligence, because Creator's mankind wasn't good enough. For them, he's not good enough. We've got to be enhanced and become perfect with AI technology. Robo-men and robo-women roaming the planet under total obedience to the one world totalitarian leader. But as Christian Pinto points out, is this part of America's Christian heritage? And if not, could this account for why the many symbols that adorn America's capital city come not from the Bible, but from the ancient mystery religions? Manly P. Hall writes, the pagan intellectuals reclothed their original ideas in a garment of Christian phraseology, but bestowed the keys of the symbolism only upon those duly initiated and bound by secrecy. Rosicrucianism played a major role in the development of Freemasonry, the rose representing secrecy and the ancient mystery religions, whilst across Christianity. So while they talk about the Bible, prayers and Christ, they also dabble in black magic and the ancient philosophies and mystery religions. The rose cross symbol can be found inside the Temple Church in London, connected to the Templar Knights, and also a red or gold rose set within a square. This symbol can also be found throughout the interior of the Capitol building, the old Supreme Court room, and the Library of Congress. Steeped in occultism, but hidden in symbols. Sir Francis Bacon became the leader of the Rosicrucians in England for around 30 years. His statement of knowledge is power can be found written inside the Library of Congress alongside a statue of Bacon himself. And now we get on to something a bit more controversial to end on. Albert Pike and his 3 world wars. Albert Pike seemingly received a vision which he described in a letter that he wrote to the Italian Mason and revolutionary Giuseppe Mazzini, dated August 15, 1871. This letter graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that was seen as necessary to bring about the one world order. Although this letter cannot be substantiated, it does contain some startling information. The letter was held in the British Museum Library according to William Guy Carr, a former British intelligence agent. Carr wrote a book in 1925 based on another book by Cardinal Caro and Rodriguez of Santiago, Chile, entitled The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled. This book was also written in 1925. Caro quotes the Pike letter in his book, and later Carr claims that he never actually saw the letter but got the information from Caro. To date, no conclusive proof exists to show that this letter was ever written. Nevertheless, the letter is widely quoted and the topic of much discussion. Following are extracts of the letter taken from the Caro book, showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. Even although it cannot be confirmed that Albert Pike authored this letter, there are questions that must be asked. How could both Carr and Caro see into the future? In 1925, there was no indication that the State of Israel would be formed after World War II, or that there would even be a World War II. How did they know that communism would be a major world player? How did they know that in 1925 that Nazism would later come to power in Germany? And finally, how did they know that Islam would rise to its current levels? So here's the quote. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergencies caused by the agentur, agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires, will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom. the enemy, the great enemy, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Interesting. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. So they're telling you here that atheism is not on. Atheism is problematic, that there is a God, although they say it's Lucifer. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So these cowards, plotting behind the scenes for hundreds and hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, they won't come out into the open until the world gets to that disastrous, cataclysmic state. That's how cowardly they are. So here we are, folks, on the doorstep of destruction by the elite, as they believe that is. Thankfully, we know who wins this battle, and it's most definitely not them. A few more short years will finally see an end to all this evil madness. Yes, the climate will get hot, and it will be caused by mankind, but not by the people who are being blamed by these elite. It will be caused by the elite themselves and the insane weapons of mass destruction that circle our planet. Revelation tells us that the sun will burn the earth, but it will be due to their actions and what they're unleashing on the planet even now. It'll just build up and build up. Revelation 16:8-9. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, who had the power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. This will be a direct result of what evil men at that point will be doing in order to damage the planet and kill people for their evil agenda of population reduction. God will allow them to go further than they planned, just as in the case of desiring a one world leader. Again, they will bite off more than they can chew. To be continued. Thank you for listening.